Now, this is major breaking news. The Democratic primary in Louisiana is being postponed. There are calls to postpone the entire presidential primary system right now, to even postpone the presidential campaigning as it stands. And I got to say, I think we might actually get there. If they want people to come out in mass numbers to vote, but they're also issuing decrees that people can't gather in groups of 250 or more, then how do you have a primary? In my state of New Jersey, I'm in the Philadelphia suburbs, they said no gatherings of 250 or more. They did the same thing in Washington. How can you even have that primary? You're asking for everyone to show up. You can't do it. Louisiana was the first to say, we will postpone. Check this out, though. As coronavirus threatens the elderly, Ohio asks for new volunteers to do patriotic duty and work at poll sites. They're struggling to even maintain it right now. Adam Goodman, Fox News. The coronavirus should delay the primaries. Now isn't the time to be voting. That's scary. Check this one out from Foreign Policy. It's time to cancel the U.S. presidential campaign as we know it. From party conventions to in-person voting, the coronavirus pandemic has made traditional election activities into deadly gambles. The rhetoric is here. I don't know how long this will last. The coronavirus may extend well into election season, like to November. If that's the case, will we even have an election? Now, of course, I think there's been a lot of talk that this can subside in the next coming months. If we take proper mitigation efforts, isolation, self-quarantine, social distancing, we might actually just get this whole thing under control. But there are now reports that there could be hundreds of thousands of people infected in the United States. And if that's the case, this might get so bad that what we're hearing from these Democratic lawmakers, Rashida Tlaib notably, saying that it was testified to her. I don't know if it came from her. I think it did. Up to 150 million Americans may be infected by this virus, which means we may need social distancing for some time, which could delay the Democratic primaries. I don't know if that's good or bad for Trump or the Democrats. I have no idea, but it has begun. So get ready. We in for a wild ride. The Hill reports Louisiana is postponing its April 4th primary due to concerns over the novel coronavirus. Louisiana Secretary of State Kyle Ardoin announced Friday. Ardoin is requesting that the governor postpone the primary to June 20th and municipal elections to July 25th. We want to protect the health and safety of all Louisianans by doing our part to prevent the spread of this highly infectious disease. He said that the decision was made to protect citizens and election commissioners who tend to work out of locations where elderly citizens gather, such as nursing homes. As of Friday morning, the state had tested 94 people for the coronavirus with 33 presumptive positive results. Quote, we're one of the few states that is supposed to have an election in early April, which we think could potentially be the height of some of this in Louisiana, said Governor's office spokeswoman Christina Stevens. Our poll workers are by large elderly, over the age of 70, and we think it is unsafe for them to be monitoring the election. We don't think we would have enough poll workers, and we think we should be discouraging people from congregating in that way. Now think about what happened with Ohio. They're looking for volunteers. They might have to postpone as well. The Democratic primaries might get shut down. And there's even talk now. The Democratic debate between Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden was moved from Arizona to D.C. There's no audience. Some people are worried they might actually cancel the debate outright because the primaries are being moved. The move means Louisiana's 54 pledged delegates will now be awarded less than a month before the national convention in July. The majority of polls in the state show former Vice President Joe Biden leading Senator Bernie Sanders. It's unclear if other states hosting their primaries in the coming weeks will follow suit or what that would look like for the trajectory of the Democratic primary. On Tuesday, 4 states host their primaries: Arizona, Florida, Ohio, and Illinois. And 3 other states are set to hold their votes the same day as Louisiana's canceled one: Alaska, Hawaii, and Wyoming. New York and Maryland, both states whose governors have issued states of emergency, are also among the states scheduled to host primaries in April. Both Sanders and Biden have canceled campaign events amid the spread of the coronavirus in the U.S. If voters are feeling healthy, not exhibiting symptoms, and don't believe they've been exposed to COVID-19, please vote on Tuesday, Biden's campaign said in a statement. The first head-to-head primary debate between the two men, scheduled for Sunday, has been moved from Phoenix to Washington, D.C., and will be held without a live audience over coronavirus concerns. On Friday, the Iowa Democratic Party announced it is postponing its county conventions, originally scheduled for March 21st, due to fears of the spreading virus. Oh, so county conventions. A spokesperson for the Illinois Secretary of State told CNBC that its primary election is still on for Tuesday, despite the governor issuing a state of emergency on Thursday. The state has extended deadlines for mail-in ballots to Friday at midnight. So I want to look at this. This is from a couple days ago. It's time to cancel the U.S. campaign as we know it. Well, we're seeing primaries be canceled. We're also seeing people like me touch their face over and over again. Mind you, you're not supposed to do that. I thought it was funny, though. But I've been in my house all day. I wash my hands. Don't worry about it. But it is funny. Anyway, let's jokes aside, let's read. Let's get serious, America. It's time to ask, during a time of plague, whether and if so, in what form democracy can continue as usual. The answer is likely to be disappointing. For the first time in the country's history, the United States must contemplate canceling the Democratic and Republican national conventions and campaign rallies and give serious consideration to arranging ways of organizing Election Day that don't require in-person voting. Consider the apparent fallout from Super Tuesday voting on March 3rd. Democrats voted in 14 states in their presidential primaries, with some states showing record turnouts and long voting lines. California voting turnout was especially robust. The following day, the state saw its first COVID-19 death, and Governor Gavin Newsom declared a state of emergency across California as evidence surfaced of community transmission in several counties. But the dangers of the election campaign aren't just a matter of voting. American democracy is built one handshake at a time. Along with selfie poses, baby kisses, and photogenic hugs, Democratic frontrunners Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders are inveterate shakers and huggers, making contact with more would-be voters in an hour than most people might in a month of social encounters. A candidate's hands can be a vector, taking the virus from one eager citizen to the next, and so on. Now, let's hold on right there. The Democratic National Convention, the Republican National Convention. Well, that's where they decide who the nominee is going to be. Donald Trump is sweeping to a ridiculous degree, getting record voter turnout, and he's essentially unopposed. So, of course, he's going to win. The Democratic National Convention is where all of the delegates get together and will decide whether or not it will be Bernie or Biden. It will very likely be Biden. How can you have this convention? I honestly don't know. Assuming it's going to get worse by July. Well, here's the big issue. E3, South by Southwest, Google I/O, all of these major conventions canceled. Employees being told to work from home. Yet they would tell you to come out and vote and come to this convention when all others are canceled. I think we're going to see the primaries delayed, maybe shut down. I honestly don't know. I don't know who this is going to help or hurt. I honestly don't know. So I guess you could argue that it's good for Trump because it sends the Democrats into chaos. I guess you could argue it's bad for Trump because the Democrats get a prolonged media cycle. I honestly have no idea. What I can say, we cannot simultaneously tell people that you can't have these conventions, you can't go to work, you have to stay distant, but then expect them to come to a major convention. Look, man, I don't know if you've ever seen the conventions, but these cities turn into major hubs of activity. A bunch of companies show up. There are parties everywhere. It's very much like South by Southwest. You have CNN take over a building and call it the CNN Cafe. They do this. How are they going to pull it off amidst a global pandemic? Honestly, I have no idea. But I will say a lot of people are claiming that this is an attempt to derail Trump, to hurt him, or the Democrats are weaponizing it. Listen, man, the World Health Organization held off calling this a pandemic. Italy is being ravaged by this right now. Of course, China, they're liars. But many other countries are seeing this absolutely impact their economies. Factories being shut down, supply chain disruption. This is real. Now, I don't know if it's the worst thing in the world. I don't know whether or not the experts are going to be right. But all I can tell you is, first, a primary has been postponed. There is no reason not to expect that it's going to happen again. Or we should expect more to follow suit. Ohio is struggling to find volunteers. Just like Louisiana, that says to me they're going to follow suit. And it's not just one outlet arguing for this. Many people on both sides of the aisle are saying maybe it's time we postpone these things because people's health is at stake. Cenk Uygur, I think it was Cenk of the Young Turks, said it would be unfair to Joe Biden to hold these primaries because the elderly will not want to come out and vote. And he does dominate that demographic. That's a fair point. Bernie Sanders takes a huge advantage because only the young people would come out, as few as there really are. Perhaps the best thing we can do is wait. I don't know what that means, but people are going to scream and cry foul about it because no matter what happens after this, there are going to be irregularities. Irregularities we can't predict. If this gets worse than we imagine, if China sees another resurgence because social distancing only slows it down, and this extends well into November, what if the general election gets postponed? I honestly don't know. Something to consider. I'll see you all tomorrow at 10 a.m. Thanks for hanging out.